All right, hey everybody, TG here. I'm back in the room in the Moxa room, and for those of you out in the social media universe, we got you on YouTube, Facebook, X, should have all the places. So hopefully we're up and running, and I got the chat room up in there too. So yeah, taking a little bit of a victory lap today. We have been waiting for this kind of move and this kind of moment for quite some time, and the market has had a couple. It's been basically moving down in a channel, and we had a really nice move at going into the beginning of the year, so we saw some strength there. Then the market decided to do one more leg down, and we really kind of captured that one quite nicely. So yesterday we had the PPI report, and then today we had the CPI. So going into that, we got a little bit of a warm up with the PPI. I looked at it. It didn't look like it was going to be anything too disastrous for the market. The market did move up, then pulled back, and the market did set up perfectly for how I look at this stuff. So yesterday we went on a little bit of a shopping spree and went out there and bought a bunch of tickers, added to some that we already had. And then the big thing that I did is I put on a call debit spread going into today. And it just basically hit max profit right at the open because I was kind of expecting the S&P. So I'll keep this picture up here for those of you out there on the interwebs. I was expecting the market to get up here and go to about the hourly 50, maybe like 5,900, and it very, very much went beyond that. So max profit right away. And we did a 58.80 call, and we sold the 59.20, and here we are at 59.20. So it would be nice to see if we could actually just close right here. Would be fantastic, because that would mean our short strike, we go max profit on our short strike, and we can kind of work with that. So yeah, I wanted to show you guys that this was the setup. This was the alert that I sent out to the Moxie subscribers yesterday. Very specific, this was a tomorrow trade. So this is a 1 DTE call trade. And yeah, this is what it looked like, 750. And then if we come over here and we look at this, you can see we came up here and we've been maxing out around $35. We're at about 30 right now. And yeah, the market's pulling back, but we'll see what this does as far as our sold strike and all of that. But yeah, pretty nice day so far for how that went. And as far as the rest of this goes, I think that this is basically game on. That's kind of how I'm viewing it, because I do think that we are going to hit the other side of the channel, the top end of the channel. I know, maybe tomorrow, maybe Friday, something to that extent. But mostly what I'm looking at is I've been watching breadth, and I do think we are at extreme levels to the downside. And I think that the market is, I think we've kind of bottomed out. And I think we were waiting for the CPI numbers to come out. They came in okay. Apparently the market is okay with them. And so I'm kind of looking at this and said, I think this is the pullback that we've had. And I think we're going to start moving to the upside. The other thing we can look at is if we look at the S&P, this pullback that we had over the last 7 weeks brought us back down into the weekly 21, which is typically the first area of support that we're going to be looking for within an uptrend to see if that holds. Now, it may not, maybe we get a really big bounce, multi-week bounce out of this, and then maybe in a few weeks or a couple months, the market starts rolling over. Hey, that's totally possible. But for right here and for right now, this pullback after 7 weeks and into the weekly 21, and with breadth being at extreme lows, I figured that we should be starting to see some turnarounds, and that's exactly what we got today. And then as far as the exact setup, we got the PPI, which basically kind of, as I said, warmed up the market a little bit. We opened with a pop up, but then it faded. And so I think a lot of people out there, I was kind of looking at social media and hearing people talk. They're like, oh, well, we had good news and we had a strong move, but man, they got it all, they sold it all back. And so I don't know, it's kind of put some doubt out there. But for what I look at, I see that price perfectly held the 15-minute 50. Moxie indicator was above zero on the 15-minute time frame, and that helped propel us to the upside as far as that move today. So yeah, pretty nice situation in through here. It went further than I was expecting to. That's totally great. And now we've really just kind of run into some resistance, and we'll have to see how the market digests this. And we can even see on the 15-minute, now that we've had some more time for the market to move, we can just see just how overbought and stretched the market was this morning. And then as far as that goes, we really just kind of wait for this to go sideways and find some support and see where we kind of go from that. Salam, looks like I'm going to have to ban you because you are just spamming me. So I'm going to block you. There we go. Okay, so that's kind of what we're looking at in through here. And we saw on the IWM, we actually were able to see, I think this thing was looking stronger than the rest of the market, because you can see just how clearly price was starting to come up and hold, say, the 15-minute 50 in that regard. And then you can see here, for those of you who've been watching me on YouTube and X and stuff like that, I put out a public-facing market update video on Sunday, and I covered most of these things, talked about all the indices, talked about the broad market, and I had a bunch of these trend lines out here showing this and saying, we're not looking too bad. It's been holding this lower trend line. Let's see if that starts to work out. Not to mention that going into this week, the move that we got down seemed a little excessive. It seemed kind of like a flush out. It seemed like they were just trying to get some stops run, which I think is exactly what happened. And you can see that we just pulled away from the moving averages a little too much. And so, yeah, it just was a good catalyst. The CPI kind of acting as a catalyst. But man, they really washed it out first before they then run it up like that. And so a pretty nice series of events. If you guys are new to the market and haven't experienced this or haven't seen this before, welcome. Yeah, this is how they get you, and this is how they work. They are going to throw cold water and doubt and run your stops before they move it to the upside. So as far as that goes, this is kind of typical to expect from the market. Yeah. These are a lot of lessons that we all have to learn throughout the market, and just kind of our experience. Trust me, it is challenging because the market is, you can call it manipulated, or you can just say, hey, they want to lock everybody out, and only those who can survive, make it. The other thing is, as far as the Moxie indicator, the last time that I was looking for the market to move up, this was like right around the turn of the new year. So I think January 6th was our biggest day up here. And you can see that the Moxie indicator still had not actually fired on the hourly chart. So the Moxie indicator did a really good job of telling us that this wasn't quite ready to be the move. And then you can see it rolled over, pulled back hard. And now we are not only getting the Moxie price trigger, we're also getting divergence. So look at this, price lower, Moxie indicator higher. That was the positive divergence that we were looking for. The other thing, for those of you in the Moxie room, I didn't mention this while I was on the mic because there are just so many things to talk about. But if we look at this on the daily chart, I remember last week we spoke about this, and even though Monday the 6th was up and all that kind of stuff, I said we still are not quite confirmed, and that's because if you look at the daily chart, look at price and how it ran right into the daily 21. That's the arch of the foot, right? And so now look at where price is. Now price is past the daily 21, which I'm saying is going to be part of the elf toe as opposed to the arch of the foot. So I'm looking at this and I say game on. Now, there might be some pullbacks, there might be some flags, but generally speaking, I think this is the signal that the market is ready to go back up. And yeah, reversal. So we got CPI out of the way. The next thing, I guess, would be the inauguration. I don't really know what to make of that. Some people have said that buy the rumor, sell the news. The inauguration could be a little bit bearish. I just don't know how that can happen because we just had 7 weeks of a pullback and everything has already been washed out. So I really am having a hard time at this point thinking that the inauguration is going to be a bearish event. I don't know if it's going to be bullish. I think the market's kind of doing what it wants to do, and the market said, "Hey, I'm ready to move up." Hang on, let me let the dog out. There you go, Ellie. Go ahead. There you go. So yeah, I think that the market's just ready to kind of do its thing, and I'm looking at it being strong and moving to the upside. The other thing, so IWM, we could RSP. You can see here, I mean, it's hard to ignore the kind of strength that we're seeing in here and through here. Even if the market pulls back today, there's still a lot of strength. It just got overbought and kind of stretched for the day. Okay, so then we can also look at, yeah, as I said, we went on an absolute shopping spree yesterday. So FNGU, this is the leveraged ETF of the FANG stocks, and you could see the same kind of deal. it pulled back into the daily 50. It had this trend, this channel, and we were kind of at these extreme lows at the low end of the channel. And so we went in. We actually added to our position yesterday in FNGU. So we'll see if this thing continues to move up. If we look at the higher time frames, we actually sold half of our position right here at the top. I mean, that was pretty darn perfect as far as a location to sell. And then we added back right in through there. So hopefully that looks like a good spot to me, and we'll see if this market wants to keep moving up. Oh yeah, Jonathan, thanks. So FOMC on January 29th. Yeah, that might be another thing. I think the understanding is that they are not going to cut interest rates anymore, which honestly I'm fine with, because they did a 50 basis point rate cut and then they did 2 more 25s. I think that's pretty good. They basically, if you think about it, as far as, I don't know if you want to do a car analogy, but if you think about it, when 2020 closed, we got the bubble, 2021, bear market, inflation, all that kind of stuff. The Fed's like, oh crap, we really got to get this thing under control. So they just kept jacking up interest rates in order to quell inflation, slow the economy down, all that kind of stuff, and then try to get that soft landing, which for now seems like they have actually accomplished a soft landing, with inflation down and the market doing well, and apparently the economy doing okay. So we have that. And what they were trying to do by raising interest rates is slam on the brakes. They were really trying to just stop everything. They're trying to just put everything back in the box, slamming on the brakes. And so now that they have started to back off on interest rates, at least taking a couple things off, reduced interest rates a little bit, what they've done is they've taken the brakes off of the economy. Now they haven't put on the gas. So remember, they are not stimulating, they're not doing a whole lot of more cuts. They are just simply taking the brakes off of the economy, which is good, because now we've kind of been freed up. We can coast for a while, and we can just kind of see where this goes. We got the new administration coming in. We'll see what their rules and regulations are like and how all that kind of works out for us. But yeah, that's what I'm seeing in through there. So just remember, even if they just reduce interest rate, or don't cut at the next meeting, that's okay, because they've already taken the brakes off of the economy. So we're okay with that. So yeah, as far as some of the names, I mean, as I said, we went on an absolute shopping spree, and we went into we got back into Bitcoin and our Bitcoin miners and stuff like that. MSTR was one of our big ones that we jumped right back into. Actually got into for the first time, and we picked up the leveraged ETF of that. And another thing that was really helping me as far as being bullish going into the CPI report was the fact that the Bitcoin and Bitcoin miners were all setting up exactly the same and looking pretty darn good. The fact that there was, because they were kind of a sloppy bunch, they don't always trade together, they don't always move exactly like. I'm telling you, for the last week or two, these things had all set up the same, and then they all triggered yesterday. So I looked at that and I thought, that's it. It's going to look okay. I think we're good. And so we entered there, got back into Bitcoin through our leveraged ETF, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that was pretty nice as far as a good timing for us to get into it. Let me kind of, yeah, 50, the market's kind of selling off a little bit to 59.19. Gosh, that would be perfect if we could get that, capture our short strike. But yeah, we'll have to see how the market goes. All right, Emil, so IonQ, you're seeing that is up today, quantum back. Yeah, I don't know. So Emil, you might not have been around with us for the morning session. This is where we kind of had, I don't know, I had to kind of split the baby on this one, because in one sense, this is definitely a bounce, because you can see here price pulled away from its moving averages, all that kind of stuff, and it bounced right back up. This could be the beginning of the resumption of the uptrend, but I can't determine that yet, because the hourly chart is still just not really ready. So this is definitely bounce. So good job on anybody who might have caught that. But I don't know what it's going to do yet until I get more time and more data and more information. Man, I'm getting all all sorts of spam from you guys out here on Facebook and stuff. Okay, blocked again. All right, so Yeah, because if you look at this, all we've done is we've just bounced right up to the underside of a downtrending hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator below zero. So, Emil, if this is going to go higher, I think we will see more development about that. Um, and if it's going to go lower, then this was just a bounce and a downtrend. So I really don't have enough information yet to fully state that yet. One thing I was looking at, the ABAT. This was a ticker that we were in. And now I understand maybe the market condition, the market environment has changed now that the market's up and we got CPI out and this pullback lasted for 7 weeks, but now hopefully we go up. And so where I took a trade on ABAT, you could see the same thing. Looks very much like IonQ, doesn't it? So we caught this, and yes, we caught a bounce, but apparently it was a bounce in a continued pullback. And so we got stopped out of this one. And so I don't know if IonQ is going to do that yet because it could follow the same path as ABAT, or it can keep going higher. But I think we will see more development in order to confirm that. So you can see with ABAT how it stayed underneath the hourly 50 and it was not a continuation. And then there was another one, RR. This is another name that I'm looking at. And same kind of deal. I'm watching this. I almost wanted to get into it yesterday. I'm still wondering if I want to get into it today, but I'm going to hold off on this because I just don't know if it's going to work. It will continue to hold the 15-minute 50, but if it's not going to work, then I'm going to say it's going to get rejected by the hourly 50. So it's kind of right in this middle ground of where I don't know which one it's going to go, what it's going to do, where it's going to go. I would be encouraged at least that the market, I think, is now ready to continue to move up after 7 weeks of pulling back, but that doesn't mean that all of these have to come along for the ride. So yeah, I just don't have super good answers yet until we see a little bit more development and have these things actually follow through. So yeah, we've had a great time. We also took a trade on Tesla. I mean, how many trades did we put on yesterday? It feels like five. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We bought 7 stocks yesterday in addition to the call trade that we put on with the S&P. So we really loaded up yesterday and it sure worked out for us. So happy about that. And with Tesla, you can see here, now this is something that I really spent some time with the Moxie traders this morning. So those of you out there on YouTube, Facebook, X, if you don't have the Moxie indicator, this is the important thing that I want you guys to see about how the indicator works. Okay, so notice here, see how the 15-minute Moxie indicator was basically staying above the zero line, even though price was below the 15-minute 50. That is what I call a trampoline move. So price should not be below the 50 if the MOX indicator is above zero. And so this was telling us that the indicator, the MOX indicator, was showing us that there was some bullishness, that there was some strength coming into this name, even though you couldn't see it with price. And that is the whole purpose of the indicators, to kind of help show you what might actually be happening underneath the surface that price isn't necessarily telling you. Because yeah, price doesn't always price can be kind of a tricky situation. And so we then had a setup right there where it popped. We didn't get into it yet, but now once we had price over the 15-minute 50, and you can see here, pulled back into the 15-minute 50 yesterday with the MOX indicator above zero. This is another trampoline move because now you can see here price was below the 50, the MOX indicator was above zero. That was a buy the dip situation on that time frame. And so we bought Tesla yesterday and now we're up a bit. So we'll see how this goes. I'm looking at this also of basically flagging into the daily 50. We do have earnings coming up. This is one of the things that my instructors taught me years ago called a RUI. It's a RUIE. That's a run up into earnings. And so a lot of times you can get some bullishness into earnings. It's basically the beginning of a buy the rumor, sell the news type situation. So we'll see if that happens because, market's bullish. We've got into FNGU, we got into Tesla. And if this thing's going to run, then you can see here right into support on that moving average on the weekly chart. We'll see if that holds and if we can get that RUI going there. Yeah, exactly, Sonny. Wouldn't we all like to know? Yeah, I'd like to know all the ones that don't work out ahead of time, so that way I can avoid them. Of course, that would be great. Yeah. Yeah, that's what we're trying to figure out. So let's see, because even Jeannie, we got into that one, and it's kind of flipping around a little bit on us. We're a little bit of heat today. I would have liked this one to just keep running with the market, but I'm going to have to just say, you know what? It's at least pulled back to the 15-minute 50 Moxie indicators above zero. It's at least pulled back to the hourly 50 Moxie indicator above zero. And it's at least pulled back to its daily 50, daily 21, daily 8 EMA. So I don't see anything problematic with it yet, but I do, basically going into tomorrow, I do want these moving averages to hold. So we're gonna have to see how that works out. But yeah, I chose it yesterday because, well, I thought things were gonna pop, and we did get a pop this morning, but it just hasn't quite followed through. So maybe a little bit of shake and bake in through this thing. Okay. So yeah, that's another interesting one that we like. So, all right, well, I'm going to pretty much leave it there. Let me just kind of come over here. I'll show you one more thing before I sign off. Let's do a refresh on this. So again, those of you out on Facebook and YouTube and X and everything, this was really the key. So if you guys don't know about breadth, then come on over to the Moxie room. This is where we talk about it and teach it. This was the thing that really helped me understand that, number one, the market was getting oversold. Number two, that it was kind of at rock bottom. And number three, that we actually had names out there starting to move up and starting to regain their moving averages, even though the S&P continued to move down. These were the backbones to what helped me make my decision going into this, and then loading up on those trades yesterday, and even loading up on SPX calls. It was a total gamble, risk going into the CPI, but it was an educated guess or risk or trade going into that. So it worked out, paid off handsomely today for us. So yeah, hopefully we see more of you guys coming into the Moxie room, because we are having a good time. And after a 7-week pullback and the new administration and all that kind of stuff, I feel like the deck has kind of been cleared. So I am extremely bullish on this market, and I'd love to see these things keep moving, because a lot of names that we have been watching and trading, they've pulled back down to major support, and I see the market going up from here. So I think we have the wind at our backs during this next cycle. So come on in. We're having a great time. The water's warm, and I hope to see you guys there. So for those of you in the Moxie room, I will be back with you on the mic in the central room in just a couple hours. And so we'll see if I can find, I'm going to go through my watch list and everything else and see what else we can go buy, or if we just need to keep adding to our positions. But yeah, it seems like it's going to be a good shopping day. We loaded up yesterday, and maybe we'll do some more today. Okay. So you guys take care.